Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black. How timing goes. I had just recorded episode 10 of season 3, the last episode of Bungo Stray Dogs, and then the day later they announced this season 4 that it was going to be made for the series. And I was like, man, I was just a day too soon. So I'm so excited. I can't believe we're getting season 4 coming out hopefully next year. That's so exciting. I'll be honest with y'all. I was really dreading these last 2 episodes, not because I'm not excited about this arc, because I really like the Cannibalism arc and Fyodor as an antagonist, and the dark angle that this series has gone on. I really like it. But I was honestly really sad because I thought, well, after episode 12, that's gonna be it. And there was this big sense of the unknown, right? And now that they've announced season 4, it's like, okay, the story is going to go on. So obviously, as you all have probably noted in the comments, because I'd recorded ahead, I had all these plans with the manga and things like that. So real quick, I don't have anybody to research for this episode, but I wanted to lay out kind of my plans post season 3 with Bungo Stray Dogs. Obviously, there is Bungo Stray Dogs 1. I'm going to watch that series because I love Modazushi Chibi. I love Ruby Chibi. So I'm going to watch it. And so there are 12 episodes and they're not full-length episodes. So I think what I'm going to do is in the month of December have 4 parts. So I'm going to split those 12 episodes and watch 3 a reaction. So my first reaction, for example, with part 1 will be Bungo Stray Dogs 1, episodes 1 through 3. So that'll be really cool. So December will be like having those, like the big chunk of Bungo Stray Dogs 1 all in a chunk there. So I'm going to finish out season 3 of Bungo Stray Dogs and then watch 1. And then after that, I'm assuming that season 4 will come out probably around the summer of 2022. So probably around July or August. So in the meantime, I am going to start a new anime after Bungo Stray Dogs 1. So there will be a poll coming out probably mid-December to pick which show is going to replace Bungo Stray Dogs for now. Just an interim show, if you will. And then while I'm watching that new show, then I'm going to catch up to the manga up until the end of season 3. So I'm going to stop where the manga stops before we get to season 4. So that way I'm not spoiled for when season 4 comes out. So I'm going to read, right now I'm on volume 7, which is about halfway through season 2 of the manga. So I'm going to read up to that point with the manga. Some of y'all have given me some suggestions for the light novels to read. I want to read those. I want to read the manga for Dead Apple because I've heard it's pretty good and has some extra stuff in it. And then I may be tackling Beast too, reading the manga or reading the light novel. And then I'm assuming that if the stage play for Beast comes out in a DVD format, I would like to react to it, but we'll see. And so then I thought about I didn't want to do a live stream for Bungo Stray Dogs because I don't usually do a live stream unless a series is over. But one of you suggested that I do kind of like what I do with Attack on Titan, doing like a recap video. So over the spring, I think once I've caught up with the manga and I've caught up with the light novels and I've read Beast, perhaps, I would like to do like a recap video, kind of in the style of the Attack on Titan recaps, where I would go over the manga, it'd be kind of like a souped up soapbox, go over the manga, go over the light novels, my thoughts on those. And then we could do like a character tier. Some of you have suggested there are character songs, so I'd like to react to those. So do like a big video encapsulating Bungo Stray Dogs up until season 4. And then when season 4 comes out, I'll start reacting to it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. That sounds like a lot of fun, and that'll give me all spring to catch up with Bungo Stray Dogs. And I'll obviously update my Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, I've been doing manga updates as I've been reading those. So you'll be able to see those there. And I've been talking about the novel as I read it too. I've read Dark Age and 15. I've read those 2 so far, and the one that's with Kunikita. The Azure Messenger one. I think Dazai's Entrance Exam. I read those 3 light novels, so I've talked about them on Twitter as well. So, and I'll talk about them in that recap video that I'm going to do. So I think that's my plan. That sounds like a good idea, and that way we'll be all caught up and can talk about Bungo Stray Dogs and then do season 4. So that's exciting. I am just so happy. I'm not ready to leave this show. I've really kind of fallen in love with the characters, and I'm not ready to say goodbye to them. So there's that. But yeah, I'm not ready to say goodbye to Mori or Fukuzawa either. But they're going to apparently fight to the death, and I'm like, I'm not ready for that. No. I'm recording ahead, obviously, so I've not seen comments with episode 10 yet. But I just Fyodor's such a scary villain because he has like a god complex and he thinks he's correct and he has this grand plan. And Dazai luckily has woken up from surgery. It's supposedly, fingers crossed, gone well. So I'm glad that Dazai's back in the picture. We need him back. But I don't want Fukuzawa or Mori to die. But I don't know how we're getting out of this otherwise. So Natsume has to be involved somehow and has a part to play in this. And this whole series has been a big damn tease of Natsume. And I finally want him to show his face and do something. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So anyway, it's the penultimate episode, y'all. It's Cannibalism Part 3. I don't know if we're going to have a Cannibalism Part 4 or not, but it's Part 3. And it's the penultimate episode of Season 3. I can't believe we're here already. I feel like we just started the 15 arc like a week ago. So it's... Ugh. But I'm not sad because we still have another episode 1 and then Season 4 to look forward to. So I'm not sad. No, I'm just really excited and very curious to see how we handle this episode. So I may research Fyodor for episode 12. I may research him just to do Crime and Punishment and just to see what it says about it. I've noticed with the author references, there aren't usually too many spoilers, and I just do the where it derives from, the ability. So maybe it won't be too spoilery, but we shall see. So in any case, thank you all for watching these reactions. I hope you all enjoy, but without further ado, we are going to dive into episode 11 of Bungo Stray Dogs. So let's do this, shall we? Episode 36, episode 11 of season 3, Cannibalism Part 3. We are going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my gosh, this episode! Oh, Natsume was that damn cat this whole time. It's glad it's confirmed. I can't decide. Here's the thing. I don't think Natsume's ability is so intriguing, and don't spoil me. I have a feeling I don't quite fully comprehend it, and so I'm going to do some theorizing in this discussion. So don't spoil me on what his ability actually is. I'm sure I'm going to figure it out. If I don't figure it out in my discussion here, I'm sure it's going to be talked about more later. And it seems like it's kind of mysterious, like we're not really supposed to know the full mechanics of it yet. So I'm debating whether or not I should research him for the finale or whether I should wait. But his ability, I am a cat. Of course it is. I definitely want to research Pushkin and his ability now that he's been named for the season finale. But I'm debating on, I'll probably listen to Patreon if they tell me to research, if it's okay to research Natsume or if I need to wait. I'm going to wait on Fyodor, I've decided, because I have a feeling we only have one episode left of the series, and I have a feeling that the cannibalism thing will hopefully be wrapped up for Akutagawa's sake and the sake of our president and vice president. But I have a feeling that Fyodor's not going down. He's probably going to be like a rat and escape through the pipeways and get out of there. So I may hold off on researching Fyodor. Definitely going to research Pushkin, but I'll wait on Patreon to see if they tell me if it's okay for Natsume or not. We shall see. But oh my gosh, so Natsume-sensei, what a cat! What a weird embodying the spirit of a cat. We'll talk about that. Oh my gosh. But he's basically our grand flagship shipper. This episode, my shipping heart is elated. I'm like, my shipping heart is full because I was like, I'm getting all of my ships in this episode. Well, not Chuya and Dazai because Chuya's off with Rampo somewhere, but I'm getting my Fukuzawa, my Silver Wolf with my Doctor ship on. And I feel like Natsume is like the original grand captain of the shipdom in Bungo Stray Dogs. And he's like, I ship you, Fukuzawa and Mori-sensei. I've set you up to work together. Just like Mori takes on the role and ships Dazai and Chuya and sets them up together. And then Dazai takes on the role for Mori and he sets up Atsushi and Akutagawa to work together. So it's just like passing down the shipped captaindoms from generation to generation. But Natsume's behind it all. He's our grand architect of this whole series. The idea of the special ops being the face in the day, the port mafia being the face of justice in the night, and the agency being in the twilight. I love that because it makes so much sense. Like you have the special ops who are bound by all of these rules, the port mafia who are not really bound by any rules, just they have the permit. They can pretty much do anything they want to by way of the permit. And then you have the agency that rides that fine line in the middle. Oh, I love it. I love it. We need to go through this episode. We need to talk about this episode. But yeah, as vile a special ability as ever, Elise and him. And so yeah, Mori's interesting. Elise, give him a gentle pat. So Elise Chan is his ability, basically, Vita Sexualis. And it appears like she just she basically embodies his bloodlust in a way. But I'm sorry, Mori's face when he's like, he draws the sword so elegantly that you don't even see it. It's like, dude, could you simp any harder for Fukuzawa right now? Oh my god. I'd expect no less of the Silver Fox, formerly the best assassin swordsman in the government. Mori-sensei, your love of Fukuzawa is showing. It's so great because it's funny because at Sushi and Akutagawa is in tsundere denial of his feelings towards Atsushi and is constantly like, no, Were Tiger, I don't love you. And it's like, you do. And then Dazai and Chuya is the tsundere one in that relationship where he's like, no, I don't like you, Dazai. And Dazai goes along with it, but it's like, you do. And then in this, there's no tsundere at all. They're like, Mori's like all on board the Fukuzawa train. He's like, oh my gosh, look at that swordsmanship. It's like, he's not even hiding the fact that he like is in love with Fukuzawa. It's great. I love it. And Natsume is the grand Natsume's setting it up to be like Fukuzawa being the bodyguard for Mori. It's like, could you be more obvious? And I love it, the idea that Natsume... So Oda fits in weirdly in all of this. Oda is like our odd man out. It's either Oda or Chuya. That's an interesting thing. We need to talk about that. If Natsume is the architect behind all of this. We need to talk about that because, you have characters who are basically assassins that were reformed in a way, shape, or form. So it's kind of funny. You have, on the one end, you have Fukuzawa, who was an assassin. He was an assassin from the government, and he was sent to protect Mori. And then from that, he did want to start the agency before he met Mori. He had wanted to start the agency, but he was sent to protect Mori, and then over time they fostered this relationship. And Fukuzawa, somehow or another, realized that them killing everybody just wasn't doing anybody any good. And so he started the agency to kind of be that middle ground, like the framework Natsume had suggested. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Akutagawa, who's basically like an assassin. With Rashomon, his ability makes him a very good assassin. But he's gone from... I like in this episode, we see how much Akutagawa has changed. Because in the Dark Age arc, Akutagawa was like, take no prisoners, we're just going to kill everybody. And not even try to get information. And in this episode, he actually tries to get information and does what Dazai would have done and played these guys to try to manipulate them. Although it turns out that Pushkin is one of them. So you can tell that he's kind of reformed and changed over time too. And is kind of fitting that mold that Natsume-sensei set up as well. And then there's Oda. Oda's the odd man out in all of this, right? Oda's the third wheel in the Dazai Chuya thing. Because Mori clearly likes the Dazai Chuya. He's shipping those two together and being like the now kiss between them. But Oda's the odd guy out. It seemed almost like Natsume was setting Oda up to be with Dazai, kind of like Fukuzawa is with Mori. Because Oda and Fukuzawa, I can see a lot of similarities in between them. They both are assassins. Oda was an assassin. And then they kind of turned a new leaf to do something different with their lives. And so I kind of see the parallels between Oda and Fukuzawa. And it almost seemed like Natsume-sensei was setting Oda up for something, whether it was to work with Dazai or whatever. But then Mori got in the way and realized that Oda could be used to get the permit. And so it's interesting where Oda fits into all of this. It's interesting because you have the three pairs. You have Fukuzawa and Mori, you have Chuya and Dazai, and you have Atsushi and Akutagawa, and then Oda's kind of just in there. So that's very curious. Very curious indeed. But yeah, 12 years ago. So 6 years before the Arhabaki incident, and then 8 years and then 4 years before Mori went to become president. So I love this. This whole backstory is amazing. The backstory of Mori having the doctor's clinic, but it being a safe space, a neutral zone. And I love that he's sitting there eating his ramen, and Elise is just sitting there drawing her little notepad. And he's like, huh? What? And then he finishes the ramen. Guard duty. I'm told that you're an exceptional bodyguard. I'm taking a break from bodyguard work for the foreseeable future, and I'm busy preparing to open a detective agency. I'm here by order of Natsume-sensei. And so Natsume obviously making the framework for the detective agency and then putting Fukuzawa on the job. Natsume's setting this whole thing up, and Mori's like, taking a break. And Mori's so like Dazai. It's crazy. But here's the thing. I love this setup with Mori. The idea that Mori's shop, that his doctor's office is like a safe, neutral zone where anybody from the Port Mafia, anybody from rival gangs, anybody in the city can go to get healed, but there's no fighting inside. Because he establishes he's like the guy that shot him is being treated here as well. So I love it. And then he's like, oh, don't worry. He's like, this clinic is a neutral zone, and that's how he gets to hear all kind of interesting stories from the underground. So Mori, it's like the perfect way to build his strategy base. Like he's probably got like a notebook of all the things he's learned about throughout the city. He's just invited all these people in to tell these stories while he's treating them, and then it's just his way of gathering intel and information in the most seemingly mundane, nonchalant way possible. I love it. I love it. It's like it never gets boring. Yeah. The underground Dr. Morio guy. What a shady man. Why did Natsume-sensei order me to protect him? Why indeed? I can't imagine why. I love it though. And I love we get the red moon. The red and blue contrast in this episode is so cool at the beginning because you have Fukuzawa in the blue and Mori in the red. I love it so much. I love it. And it goes back to like the blue with that sushi and the red with Akutagawa, right? And then God, the way that they animate Mori's like scary face is kind of terrifying. And they're like, all this information you've gathered, we figured it out. Like if you keep gathering all this intel, eventually you're gonna have enough information to be able to shut down a whole organization. We don't want that to happen. And so you're a black market information broker. So you're not only being a doctor, you're gathering all this information to sell to the right people, to work his way up. I love it. We're interested in knowing where the army or the Port Mafia is. So yeah, so he's like, we need to know information. I love that Mori's like, yeah, the Port Mafia has been chaotically causing casualties as of late. And then I like the idea that he's wanting to change that. And these guys, they're small fry, but oh my God. I love that Mori's like, he knows everything and he has just that gleam. He's like, I love this city, including its underground society. That ties back to Dazai too, because when Fyodor was like, these people that have sinned and done all these crime, they deserve punishment. And Dazai's like, but the sinners, they're what makes life great, right? So it's tying right back. Like Dazai doesn't come out and say, I love this city, but he's like, I love the people in it is more of Dazai's thing. He's like, even the people that are sinners and corrupt, he's like, they're what make this place so lively. Like, of course I love them too. And Mori's kind of the same way. He's like, I love this city and its underground society. So he's like, I'm going to protect it. And then, yeah, but Parasite's like, you make me sick to my stomach. And that face, oh my God. That face is terrifying. And what about you, Fukuzawa Dono? And here's the thing. Fukuzawa's like, I killed all those guys outside. Like, he didn't just disable them. He just massacred them. Oh, man. And then he's like, go ahead and try to kill Mori. And Mori's like, he's like, oh, I was just buying time. And then that smile, that twisted smile that Mori has. Oh my God. You have the same disgusting stench as me. So both Fukuzawa and Mori establishing they're both killers. And they both are equals. Oh man. I see, and that's the thing. And then Mori takes them out. That's the thing, though, that in that moment with Mori and Fukuzawa, them establishing they're both murderers, it kind of felt like Dazai and Oda from the Dark Age, because Dazai has killed people and Oda was an assassin. It felt like the same type of connection that Dazai and Oda had, right? It just felt like that same backstory. The only difference is Oda kind of gained like an enlightenment and consciousness through all this and a conscience and was like, I'm done killing people. And so he stopped. And then that's when he ended up getting taken advantage of and killed himself. So it's interesting. The parallels are just really interesting. And then, yeah, Mori's like, it's time for payback and revenge, just as planned by Natsume-sensei. So it's establishing that Natsume is not, he's not exactly a force of good. Natsume sounds like very chaotic neutral. I feel like Natsume's like, here's my framework, here's my plan, here's my agenda, but it's good and bad because he starts the agency and the special ops, which are designed to protect the people. But then he also has the port mafia, which is protecting people, but it's through these illicit, nefarious means. So Natsume-sensei was totally chill with these guys just slaughtering these people. So interesting. And Dazai knows Natsume as the legendary gifter who is the core backer of the detective agency. Yeah, he got the business permit. Which now, thinking back, at the time it seems like such a big deal that Natsume got the business permit. But now I'm like, no, it probably wasn't a big deal for Natsume to get that because he kind of set up the special ops to begin with. So it probably wasn't a big deal for him to get that, actually. Interesting. And then Dazai saying he comes and goes and his whereabouts are unknown. And rumor has it his special ability is the most powerful of all, allowing him to see through anything. So I wonder if Natsume has wrote in the book, in the special book, if he wrote down and that's how he got his ability, maybe? I don't know. But then, yeah, he shows up with the damn dried sardine. And Dazai's like, dried sardines? Once again, 12 years ago. I love that. I love the title card. Once again, 12 years ago. So, I don't know. He gave Dazai the dry sardine, which turned out to be we'll have to get to zoom in on it here in a second, but it turned out to be the equipment that he needed. So I'm like, he just carries around these like little nuggets of things to give to people, like a cat, right? It's like when a cat brings you a mouse. Like, look what I got. You'll be fine, Fukuzawa, my ass. There are a lot more enemies than your information suggested. Oh, I love it. The silver wolf skills are a sight to behold. So in one part of the translation, they say silver wolf. In the other part of Crunchyroll's translation, they say silver fox. So silver fox, silver wolf. Either way, I mean, Fukuzawa is a silver fox. Let's be real. He's like, you spared me half the work. And I love that we have Fukuzawa and Mori in between the clock, showing the passage of time. I like that. Is it not in vain? The conspiracy we stopped was no more than a speck among calamities. So they're both realizing that the tyranny of the port mafia is a problem. The port mafia wasn't created by Natsume-sensei. It was already in place. And I'm assuming that the special ops perhaps was already in place as well, possibly. And then Fukuzawa was starting the detective agency. And so Natsume may have just been like, okay, the port mafia has a big pull in the city. They're one of the major, if not the major organization. So if we take that over and reform it, we can turn it into something that can work alongside the special ops and the agency. Maybe that was Natsume's goal all along. That was the framework. And so the president's like, yeah, the port mafia is a problem because they're just causing all this death and destruction senselessly. So that's why we'll be taking on Natsume-sensei's 3-part framework. And then Fukuzawa was like, wait, what? And then we come back to the present. I hate them fighting. I hate them. And it's like a stalemate because Fukuzawa, he slices through Elise and gets rid of her, but then Mori like gets him in the neck with the blade, so it's like it's a stalemate. And then he just like slices it up, and he slices Mori too. He got like Mori through the chest. and hit her. And I do love that Elise like cups Mori's head when she like falls down. She's like, I'm sorry, Rentaro. I'll be waiting on the other side. So that means his ability's gone. Oh. And then he's like, but here's the thing. Mori brings up a really good point. He brings up a really good point. That being that the port mafia, and then they talk about the 3-part framework. The military, police, and special operations would oversee the day. The port mafia would oversee the night. And the agency would oversee the twilight. I love it. It's kind of like every OP we've had in Bungo Stray Dogs so far in this series has taken place like during Twilight. It's like, oh, it's all as planned by Natsume-sensei. All according to plan. But here's the thing. Mori's not wrong. He's not wrong because there's much more to lose if Mori dies than if Fukuzawa dies, right? And so they established they never learned about his special abilities. So they knew Natsume enough to get the framework started, but that was it. Natsume was just like, here's my plan, carry it out, peace out, bye. And then he never told him anything. Interesting. And they clearly respected Natsume enough to go along with it, even though they knew hardly anything about him. But yeah, Mori's right. If Fukuzawa dies, the special agency isn't going to riot and cause like a big pandemonium amongst the city. He's like, that's not going to happen. Kunikita's going to take over for you and it's still going to be fine. The detective agency and the mafia are not of equal value. He's like, the fighting will stop if you die. But if I die, then there's going to be a giant power vacuum and somebody's going to try to take over the port mafia. There's not the same hierarchy in place that's in the agency. And he's like, the port mafia is filled with people that I'm sure would love to take Mori's place. It'll cause a big riot, cause a power vacuum. There'll be so much more death and destruction than if Fukuzawa dies and the agency just carries on without him. So Mori's not wrong. I still don't want Fukuzawa to die, but he's not wrong. And it seems like in that moment, Fukuzawa realizes that, yeah, shit, you're right. And that's when he throws the knife at his neck. No. Damn it. And so, of course, we cut to Kunikita and Atsushi. And we cut back to them. And I hadn't even thought about this from the last episode. I hadn't even thought about the fact that the futon didn't have any bullet holes in it. Didn't even register. I was so caught up in the moment of the episode that, yeah. Because Atsushi at first is like, why isn't Kunikita sadder? Because his best friend, like one of his best friends has died. Shouldn't he be like way more in grief? Because he was really distraught about that girl dying. And then I love the fact that in that little back room that we saw in season 1, the back room with all the info where Dazai and Kunikita were fighting, that's where Katai set up his futon before. I love it. He'd make his own little office and live there. Yeah. And so that's the thing. I hadn't even noticed. That's why Kunikita wasn't horrendously sad, because he was like, Katai is somehow alive. I'm sure he replaced that futon with like something bulletproof and then just faked his death. You know. But I'm surprised Fiorda wouldn't have checked the body to make sure it was dead. Interesting. Interesting indeed. But yeah, that it's like, how did he escape? And of course, I'm sure we find out Natsume was involved. Natsume with his little cat-like pocket dimension, turning people into dry sardines and taking them with him wherever he goes. You know, who could stump the Fjordor? Who could stump the Fjordor? And it would be Natsume-chan. Natsume-sensei. I could not have won by might, so I took the dirty art of persuasion. Mori's like, I couldn't beat you in a fight of brawn, so I had to beat you in a fight of brains. And he's like, this too must be fate. It's like, you two are fated to be together. I totally ship Fukuzawa and Mori now. It's like, it's over. The ship has sailed. I'm like, OTP. Sorry, Elise-chan, OTP. Mori and Fukuzawa. I'm all for it. And then that's when he sees the damn cat. And it has all these rays of light, like an explosion. But Fukuzawa and Mori are spared from it somehow. So it's like he can control time and space, maybe? And then she says, we cut back to the girl, she says, whenever the things that happen when Mi-chan vanishes, the attempted bombing at the police building, the discovery of the military's illegal activities. Disasters are stopped every time. Huh. So, yeah, it's like things get put into motion to stop bad disasters from happening. Uh-huh. And then Mi-chan disappeared when the president collapsed. Yeah. And so they're fine. And then I love the cat turns into... With the cane, the tail becomes the cane. I love the way he sits. It's like, you two sure are a pain in the ass. Ah! And then Mori has like the senpai, Natsume-sensei. Like he has the most, Mori has the most Akutagawa-ish notice me senpai face ever. I absolutely love it. I'm a retired old man. Give me a break. And I love that his hair is calico. Natsume's hair is calico and he has the cat eyes. I love it. So his name is Natsume-sensei. Special ability, I am a cat. And then Katai's like, Natsumi don't know. So interesting. Young Katai. So yeah, Natsume's pretty old. Young Katai's figured out where the rats are hiding. But the enemy is the epitome of craftiness. And if they realize they're being pursued, they'll disappear into the darkness like a bunch of rats. So that's why we gotta stop them. So what will you make of this chance? Oh. And then Mori's like, I'm a man of strategy. I can figure this out. And so and meanwhile, Fukuzawa's like, he was a cat this whole time? Just when the two leaders may or may not be dead, they'll stay in their hideout to wait and see. So are those lines from the story? From the I am a cat? The best moment is within the 12 hours for the onset of the virus symptoms. So now's the time, yeah. And then, oh my gosh, the sardine. Inside the sardine was the chip of information. I couldn't see it in the moment. I was trying to figure out what Dazai had in his hand, but it's the dry sardine, but it has the little chip from Katai. Oh my, that he decoded. Oh my gosh. And that look on Dazai's face. He is like the cat that ate the canary. He's like, oh yes. Oh my gosh, I've already given your subordinates the information they need. No mere rat could chew up an organization of my approval. Oh! Natsume, you diva. I kind of love him. He's such a cat. He's like, I always view cats as like neutral. Like dogs, you know, when everybody's like, oh, a dog is loyal and a dog will do whatever you want and they're loyal and friendly. Cats are like, piss off. Like a cat will do whatever it wants and does not need your approval. A cat can be snuggly and a cat can be, clingy, but it's on a cat's terms. And cats are divas. And this Natsume character is like the epitome of that. Oh my God. I expect the two of you to prove me right. He's like, this is my prophecy. I'm shipping you two. Now get to it. Oh my God. I love it. So yeah, Dazai. And so then we cut to Dazai in the truck that Kunikita's driving. And he's like, nope. He has Atsushi and Akutagawa on either side of him. Just being like... He's like, oh, no, don't struggle so much. You're going to reopen the wound in my tummy. It's like, oh my God. And Atsushi's like, Dazai-san, you don't understand. Why is Akutagawa here? He hates me. It's like, Dazai's like, this is my plan. Dazai is trying to imitate Natsume-sensei so much. Dazai wants to be Natsume, right? Looking back on this, I always thought that Dazai was trying to one-up Mori, but I think it's beyond that. Mori-sensei is just happy being the Port Mafia leader and is like, I'm the Port Mafia leader. I've got my own little regime here. We're fine. And I just want to impress Fukuzawa and fight with him. And Dazai's like, I want to be like Natsume-sensei. Like, I just get that vibe. Like, the look on his face, the smirk he has. I'm going to have the two of you sneak inside the enemy hideout together. Isn't that great? It's like he's forcing Atsushi and Akutagawa to wear the best friend shirt where they have to wear the same shirt together and be like, this is our friend shirt. And Atsushi's just like, excuse me? No. But yeah, so this abandoned coal mine that it shows it's like over 400 meters deep. That's crazy. Crazy. and then it says our target. And I like the visual here where the visual puts the target who controls the virus in like a suit, when we find in reality it's the guy with the balding like spike of mohawk. It's the anime does a really good job of faking us out, making us think that the user looks like one thing when in reality he does not look like that at all. You know. So they have to disable special ability, which I'm assuming means they have to kill him. And then the secondary target is Fyodor. And then Akutagawa's hatred for me is beyond reason. Like, Atsushi's like, you don't understand Dazai. He hates me. And then Dazai's like, oh, well, he says he does, but do you really? And I love that Akutagawa is so focused on trying to impress Dazai that he's like, I'm going to go along with it. I'm going to go along with it. I'm going to go along with it. And he's like, just carry out the mission. And he's like so narrow focused. And Atsushi's like, and then I like that he asks him the questions. And Dazai can't resist trolling. Again, this show loves to animate Dazai, and his expressions in this scene, like his smirking, is so well done. And he's like, I hope to see you're a little more capable than you were before. And he is. Akutagawa has learned. Akutagawa has learned indeed. And he's just sitting there pouting. Oh my god, I love it. I freaking love this so much. Yes. So yeah, Akutagawa and Atsushi sneaking past, and Akutagawa's like, just don't fall behind me, Were-Tiger. Like, he won't. The day that Akutagawa calls Atsushi by his name, that's gonna be such an amazing moment, because so far he's not done it at all. He's always been Were-Tiger. So I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for that moment where he calls him Atsushi. It's going to be glorious. So yeah, okay, I missed this part because I was so like focused on what was going on. So it looks like the countermeasure to his illusion ability, their vital signs are being sent to headquarters. Okay, so this, interesting. So they wouldn't be able to use Tanazaki's light snow ability because if anything elevates, it's sent back to headquarters. That's fascinating. Okay, so Fyodor, thinking ahead, man. Thinking ahead. That's crazy. They'll know something is wrong if the guards get too excited or nervous. And then I love that Akutagawa just like burrows underground with Rashomon, and Dazai's like, you're getting left behind. Oh my god. Bear in mind two things. Fall behind and I'll leave you behind. Get in my way and I'll kill you. Ah! Oh, Akutagawa, you try to be so badass and cool, but it's like, dude, just admit that you kind of like Atsushi. It's okay. He's a great guy. He's our cinnamon roll Were-Tiger. And so then, yeah, Kunikita and Dazai have to fall behind. And then, yeah, Akutagawa, this is my first opportunity in 4 years to prove my superiority to Dazai. It's like, oh, honey, he's playing you. Don't you know? I'd prefer if you'd be taken down early. It's like, that's not the point. And then Atsushi's like, we can fight later. We got a mission to do. So yeah, it's crazy that the ones they capture is the user and the other guy. Like, interesting. It all seems according to plan on Fyodor's actions, right? It seems just according to plan, which is, again, interesting. So I'm wondering if they actually did mute the mics or if they kept them on so that Fyodor could hear. I don't know. It was well played. I didn't suspect this guy to be the ability user at all until it happened. I had no clue. I just thought that he was just a flunky. But he says, don't resist. He's that black cape beast. Yeah. So I was totally fooled by this. I had no clue what was going on. And to think, this is the crazy part of it all. Here's the crazy part of it all. This whole time, I've been praising Akutagawa for thinking before acting, like he's actually matured and developed over the course of this series. But the crazy thing is, if he had killed this guy like he would have in the past, then the ability could have been taken out. Isn't that ironic? That's crazy to me. It's like, oh man, Akutagawa could have taken him out to start with, and it could have stopped this whole thing. But he didn't. Damn. So I'm I'm curious. And then it makes so much sense now too, because this flunky who didn't know anything 2 seconds ago suddenly knows where to go to get to the fingerprint encoding thing. He suddenly knows where to go to find the right door. And he didn't know anything 30 seconds ago. That should have been a red flag. That should have been a clue that this guy was more than just a flunky. But again, didn't even catch it. That's crazy. That's really good foreshadowing, actually. And then, yeah, he basically just lured them in there. So, okay, there's a bunker, a mine car, in this whole thing that all the wires and stuff that I'm assuming you're giving feedback is leading to. And that is where Fyodor is. So Fyodor is in the mine. And he's just listening to things. And I was like, is this Hawthorne? With the head wrap Hawthorne's hair, only it's super long? I don't think it's Hawthorne. Or is it just another ability user that's had his mind scrambled? Right? Because that looks like... I don't think it's Hawthorne, though. But his mind... I mean, he looks like his mind's been scrambled because it's all bandaged up. And he's bringing Fyodor the tea, and he looks kind of out of it. Huh. That's creepy. I thought for a second that this guy with the bandage and the silver hair was the ability user. I thought it was him, and it may still be him. The other guy may have been lying. And so then, yeah, Fyodor calls the Port Mafia guy that he's rigged a bomb to ask about what's going on. And then he tells him what he knows. And Fyodor, that's not what he wanted to hear. He's like, that's not what I wanted to hear. And he's like, deactivate the bomb. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. We'll just press the blue cord. It's like, you should have realized not to do that. Because that kills him. Damn. It's like, no sympathy from Fyodor. Which, you know, if he'd pulled the red cord, it probably would have killed him anyway, too. So, and Fyodor's not even phased. He's just sitting there in front of this Monet painting, drinking his tea with this gaudy green metal chair, looking at like everything's cool. I'm like, what? I would not be surprised if the ability user is actually a guy with Fyodor. I don't know, though. Damn. So, yeah, they're in front of the door. And then trying to find the ability user. And then they said it's a few meters behind him. But before we get to that, so I'm going to go back here before they get to that. They're at the big giant red door that Katai is trying to open. And he's like, it's an isolated network. It could be hard to pull off with my connection speed. Dude, relatable. I love that Katai's problems with his ability are related to modern day issues of internet connection. I love that Katai's like, damn it, my ability is really dependent on technology. And so, yeah, so then Octagawa's like, well, if you can't open the door, then we need to find the enemy. We need to find the guy with the ability while we're waiting. Yeah, exactly. He's like, just a sec, bro. And I love that Octagawa's like, I'm the last person you want to call bro. I'll kill you. So, yeah. And so then there's this guy here, the two guys there, that are waiting. And I like that. So she's like, why do you think Dazai had us work together? It's like, do you think he's shipping us? And then Octagawa was like, anyone who questions Dazai falls into a cognitive prison. That line is so great. I love, because he's not wrong. It's like, don't question Dazai's motivations. They're like 5 layers ahead of everybody else. You might as well just stop while you're ahead. I love it. But then Octagawa has a question. Why did you participate in this operation? Why did a coward like you put your life at risk for another person? It's like, Atsushi's not a coward. He's selfless. Of course that's why he felt the need to help. And then Octagawa was like, why do you feel the need to help? He's like, because it's the right thing to do. He's like, what's the reason behind it? And he's like, those who can save no one do not deserve to live. Yeah. And so that's the thing. Atsushi's like, I help people because it gives me purpose. And if I can't save anybody, then what's the point? Right? And that, again, ties kind of back to Oda's words to Dazai. Like, be somebody that saves others. Do something. It's exactly like what Oda told Dazai. It's like, in this world where things are bad, just be a force of good and save people. Do whatever you can to at least do that. and that'll give your life purpose and meaning. And Atsushi kind of lives by those exact same words. It's interesting. But yeah, then Katai is like, I know where the virus controller Pushkin is. He's a few meters away. It's like, shit. That moment where he says he's behind you 2 meters away, it's like, Katai, could you not have been a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more pressing about that? Like, that seems like, oh, he's 2 meters behind you. That's 6 feet. That's, ugh. And then, yeah, so he managed to scrape him. So, here's the thing. Pushkin A feast in time of plague. How fitting. How fitting. Because it's like the rats in the dark, the bubonic plague, you know, the dark plague. That's so fitting, right? The black plague is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's so fitting that there's the rats and the black plague, and his ability is called a feast in time of plague. Oh, I love it. It's all about death. That'll be interesting to research. So here's what I'm thinking, though, because he killed that other guy. That other guy, he just shot him in the face. He's the gifted controlling the virus. He's the target. And he runs off, and here's the thing. I'm wondering if he injured himself and was like, either Akutagawa's going to die or I'm going to die. And then I like that Atsushi's like, okay, well, we got to get a car. Let's do this. Let's go. And then Akutagawa stumbles. Don't underestimate small wounds. Seeing powerful gifted suffer is a great entertainment for weak men like me. No. Oh, and his face. Akutagawa's face when he's like, shit, no. Oh. So the question is, who's on the other end of the virus ability? I don't think it's Pushkin. My guess is that the guy with the bandages that's with Fyodor, he's the other one that's injured. He's the other side of the plague, right? Of the virus. Damn it. So I don't think they're obviously not going to get to they're not going to get to him. So they're going to have to kill Pushkin to save Akutagawa and the president and Mori. And the question is, Atsushi's been against that this whole time, right? But it's like, what are you going to do? I don't think that they can just make that guy deactivate his ability. I don't think he'll do it. No, they're going to have to kill him in order for it to work. It's like Atsushi's Batman. It's like, you're going to break your one rule? But poor Akutagawa, his face, he was like, oh no. It's like, what are we going to do? This episode was really good. Really good. I'm not entirely sure of Natsume's ability. I'm assuming it has something to do with like space and time manipulation or something, because he had that whole place blow up, but then nothing happened to Mori and Fukuzawa. So is there like a trade-off? Does he have to, does Natsume have to destroy something to save something? Is that maybe his ability? They said he could see through anything, but then why did he make the building blow up? Don't spoil me. Maybe there'll be more with his ability in season 4 or in the next episode, but I'm really worried for Akutagawa. I mean, obviously he's not going to die, I'm sure, but it's like, whoa. Is Atsushi going to have to kill him? He might. Here's the thing. If Atsushi kills Pushkin to save Akutagawa, like, then Akutagawa, you better call him Atsushi instead of Were Tiger if he saves your life. I mean, let's be real. But this episode was really good. What a penultimate episode to get us ready for the season finale. Oh my gosh. So much to talk about. I'm curious to know your thoughts as well. Please let me know down below what you all thought of this episode. But man, this was so good. And now I'm so ready for the season finale. So, and it's not going to be sad because we still got season 4 after that. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with the season finale of season 3 of Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.